Yes, Mamba time again. I like to repeat the story, even though it didn't happen to me, just to show how accidents can happen with Mambas. They are deeply unpredictable. These are true tales of my African adventures. May this inspire you, deter you, caution you, and above all, entertain you. Now, there are many people these days who catch mambas in Africa for one reason or another. You don't hear about the ones who get bitten and die. You hear about the ones who get bitten and survive usually. And quite a few people do get bitten by mambas, or even cyclists these days because of mountain biking. So when I was talking to a colleague a few years ago, he was telling me about a snake bite he attended to, where a lady cyclist was going down a dirt track, came around the corner, drove over a black mamba which bit her 3 times in the inner thigh before she was over it. She did survive, but it was a bit of a battle. So I had a friend, John. He is no longer around. He was killed tragically, so I don't want to give his surname. Anyway, his name was John. People will know who I'm talking about, some people. And he was a geologist. And he was prospecting in Namibia, in quite a remote area. Anyway, it was not too hot one afternoon, and he'd been doing some long walks and prospecting and so on. And there was a large anthill. They get very big there. I mean, some of those are as tall as a house. But this one was a comfortable size to just get a foothold, hoist yourself up and sit on the top. And just sit there lazily in the breeze and just observe the bush around there. It's a beautiful place. So he did that. He got a foothold, swung himself up, sat on top of the anthill, and lazily sitting there was swinging his feet backwards and forwards, gently, as he told me, backwards and forwards. And suddenly a mamba had him by the ankle, above his shoe, below the trousers, through his socks. So what had happened is a mamba lived in that anthill, but seeing him approaching probably went into a bit of a cavernous part of the anthill, and was kind of trapped in that particular section. And when his feet were moving around in front of the hole, the mamba was probably petrified and thinking he was under attack, and not being able to take it anymore, it just struck out, came lunging right out of the cavernous hole and got him between his trousers and his shoe and gave him a full bite. Now that is a death sentence. And he had no help with him. And he had his Land Cruiser. Thank God he had a Land Cruiser. I'll tell you why in a minute. If any of you have driven a Land Cruiser in the bush, I have been in Land Cruisers on game capturing expeditions where we have taken down trees with a Land Cruiser. We had a railway line welded onto the front. And if you're sitting as the passenger, and the tree gets in the way and you're going too fast to swerve, well, the driver hits the tree on the passenger side, which means you as the passenger are done for. So you just dive out the vehicle. It doesn't matter what speed you're going at, whether you're on rocks, thorn bushes, you just go, you bail out. And so it's a sort of a dicey situation to be in. Anyway, Land Cruiser is a very strong vehicle. I have great respect for them. He knew he was in trouble. There was no cell phone. There was no signal in any case where he was. But that was, I think, I don't think there were cell phones at the time. Maybe there were. I can't quite remember now. Anyway, even if there were, he was in a very remote area. He got into the vehicle, and he had come a long way through many camps, cattle camps, to this particular spot he was in, and he now had to go straight back to the main road. So he put the thing into four-wheel drive and he just went, and straight through the fences, that is. He went straight through every fence and through the bush too. He was avoiding the big trees, obviously, because if he had an accident and the vehicle was stopped, that would be the end. So he went as fast as he could, crashing through the fences, game fences, cattle fences, the lot, until finally he came to the final fence, and he at that point was barely able to keep himself upright in the vehicle and hold onto the steering wheel. Went through the final fence, drove into the center of the road, opened the door, passed out, and fell right out of the vehicle onto the road unconscious. And the story goes on. The motorist tells the story, though, as he repeated to me. He was coming up to this vehicle, which was parked across the road, which was very unusual, and he saw a person lying on the ground. So he went over to him and asked him if he was all right, because he looked unconscious. And the person apparently mumbled to him, bitten by a mamba, pointed to his foot, and then really passed out, and then he was gone. And those farmers, those people in that district know if you're bitten by a mamba, it's a serious business. So bundled him into his car and rushed to the nearest hospital, where they put him on life support. Well, they managed to get serum and they managed to save him. It is a remarkable thing. They saved him, and he lived to tell the tale. One of the few people who have been through such a deadly situation. This is why I'm always telling you Mamba stories, because they are really terrifying.